Turning back to the infrastructure plan, let's bring in the Vice Chairman of the House Budget Committee and a member of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, Republican Congressman Todd Rokita of Indiana. Couldn't have a better guest than to have you on today, Congressman. Tell me, can you help me understand the process? Because the Congress just passed a 2-year spending agreement, and now you have this budget. There's no infrastructure money in that spending deal, is that right?
Yeah, that's right, but that's okay. This is the president's budget request, and I love the job that he's doing. He's off to a great start, and I love your bumper from the last segment where he said, well, you know, if you're a state that's going to hold things up for environmental reasons and this and that, you know, we're just going to take our money back. It shouldn't take 15 years. You know, it's probably shocking to a lot of your viewers, Dana, that he wants to get it down to 2. You know, it should be even quicker than that.
No, I think it is shocking to some people that they don't realize that it can often take 10 years to get approval. And so I do think that would be an amazing achievement if you can actually streamline those approvals and keep the standards what they are, but get them down in 2 years. That would certainly provide for a lot of progress.
Right. So, I mean, and back to your question, I mean, the fact of the matter is we do have a 2-year spending deal. Now he's making a request on top of that. We can still, you know, as this appropriations process now goes through for this spending deal, we can still maneuver the $200 billion around to have that seed money. I think it's a great plan. $200 billion from the government to seed things, hopefully not new or printed money, but reprioritizing things. And that's what this presidential budget request is about. It's about making priorities. And he's saying, look, I think infrastructure should be a priority. I want $200 billion spent on that, and that will create another $1.3 trillion in investment, so more than the investment that he even promised in the beginning. So I think this is a great way to use some public money to seed what is public and private investment.
Yeah, I think you'll probably see some pushback from Democrats saying that the $200 billion is not going to go very far, and that some states feel like that the president is shifting the burden back to them, but that will be a fight for another day. Wanted to ask you about just the overall part of the budget, because some conservatives are quite antsy about the high numbers. Take a listen to something that I think you'll be familiar with from 2015.
What's a lot easier to do is to never balance. And this chart shows that. The president's budget never balances ever. Of course, Mr. Chairman, you know that you can't start paying down the $18 trillion of debt that we have with another $100 trillion on the way until you first come to balance. We do that in a responsible, honest way. We don't try to do it in a year. We do it in a responsible, logical 10-year window.
So I was following all of that. Of course, that was in the Obama administration. This budget that the president's putting forward also doesn't balance. How have the economics changed your viewpoint on supporting this type of budget?
Well, hey, I think that's a great segment. It's a great question. And here's the big difference. What the president's budget request is doing here is going after the real drivers of our debt, and that's the mandatory spending. And he's doing it in a very humane way. The Obama budget that I was talking about before never touched Medicare, TANF, SNAP. Medicaid, TANF, SNAP, other welfare programs. This one does $1.7 to $3 trillion worth in the first 10 years alone, and that's a trade I'll take every day. See, that's what's driving our debt. So all he's saying is, hey, let's have a work requirement. So if you're an able-bodied person, before you apply for this public assistance, Dana, you should have a job or be in training for a job. I think Americans, and certainly Hoosiers, find that a very reasonable thing. It motivates you to have work, which is the basis for earning your success and earning your happiness.
And certainly
and doesn't make you dependent on these programs. If we did that simple thing, we'd save, with the president saying $3 trillion. Obama would never do that. He would never have that kind of leadership, and that's why the president's right here.
Certainly work requirements were something that your previous governor, Vice President Pence, cared a lot about too. All right, Todd Rokita, thank you so much.
Too.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah, bye-bye.